thank you for joining me for another Sunday Afternoons with Reverend Lucretia. I'm so glad you're here. And if this is your first time coming to this station, I hope you find it inspiring and helpful and uplifting. And please do click on the subscribe button below so that you can get notified whenever we have new videos coming out. So the name of today's talk is Don't Be Surprised by the Miracle. And the song is I Believe in Miracles by Fearless Soul. If you would like to listen to the song before you hear the talk, just go ahead and click on the link. It will be down below in the description. So we're going to talk about the fact that miracles have been here all along. We just started to believe them. I will give credit to Joel Osteen. I was listening to a talk of his, and he was saying that you need to understand that the minute you pray for something, you need to be ready to receive it at that moment. So if you keep saying that it's off in the future, like God will bring me this or God will do this, it's always off in the future. If you say, as of this moment right now, I am receiving the miracle, then as you will see, as of that moment right then, you will receive the miracle. So we're going to be talking about the miracles of Jesus. We will be talking about the nature of miracles. We will be talking about scriptural references. We will talk a little bit about comparing Judeo-Christian beliefs about miracles with other belief systems throughout the world. The real miracle is transforming the mind. And so we're going to be talking about the fact that we have to be receptive. We have to allow in all the good things. We have to say to God, yes, I am here. I am ready to receive. And when you do that, you get all of the miracles. So Albert Einstein says there are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle, and the other is as though everything is a miracle. I just love that. So I did have this revelation that miracles didn't come until I was ready to receive them. And so you have to be ready to receive them. The miracle is always available to us. We just have to have the faith that it's coming to make it real in the physical world. So we're going to start with Morgan Freeman did a series on National Geographic about the religions of the world, the story of God it was called, and there was a whole episode on miracles. So he reminds us that Christians and Jews very, very much believe in miracles. As a matter of fact, a lot of people think that you're not really a Christian unless you believe in some of the miracles. Things like, for Jews, things like Passover and the parting of the sea, all of those miracles are proof that God cares about us. In the Mexico, they have the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe is a spot where the Virgin Mary appeared to a peasant 500 years ago, so they believe in miracles as well. In Hong Kong, a Buddhist nation, there is a statue in Huanhing. There's actually statues of Buddhas all over the place, and though they don't really call them miracles in the same way that we do, they believe that you can go and pray, and it will grant them medical cures and spouses and even things like good grades. So in Rome, miracles can turn an ordinary person into a saint. And so they verify saints. It sometimes takes years and years and years to verify saints. Unless you are a martyr, the only way to become a saint is to have 2 miracles that you do after you die. And they need to be verified. They need to prove that there was a special intervention of God, that you created this special happening because of your relationship with God. So the ancient Romans before Christ had many gods. They believed that gods controlled your fate and everything was decided by them. But they went to priests in these special kind of like tombs that were underground where they prayed for certain outcomes, and they believed that you could change the fate of the gods. You could encourage quote unquote minor miracles, usually by paying off the priest. And so this had to do a lot with like betting, with the big chariot races. People would go and pray that gods would change their mind about who would win based on how much money they gave them. So that's the ancient Romans. In Chinese, where the major belief system is Taoism, they are not gods. They believe that there's an ultimate creative energy of the universe to which we are all connected. They believe that our fates are set at birth and that you can understand what your fate is by reading the stars. There are charts that are made of your whole lifetime, which are called fate calculations, and they cover your life in 10-year periods. They are a life map of your journey, and they give you information for you to know how to turn. And this will help you to understand that you're connected to all and that a miracle is waiting to happen. So in Cairo, there is the world's oldest hospital that they have on record. It's famous for combining medical sciences with the powerful healing of the belief system. So in Islam, back in 1285, the patients came to be cured with cutting-edge medicine and miraculous intervention by the God. They believed that medicine was seen as a conduit for the will of God and that you were only healed by the will of God. Muslims believe that there's a combination of faith and medicine that work together to heal you. So now they ask the question, can faith and prayer improve medical outcomes and cause a miracle? And the answer that Morgan Freeman came up with after talking to all these people is that this starts in the mind with the faith where you transcend everyday life. Set our minds to achieve what we fear in normal life is impossible. So in India, at the Buddhist temple, Morgan Freeman was asking one of the monks there about it. He said, we all have the mental power to perform miracles. There is an immense untapped power. Siddhartha became enlightened one by letting go of all of the desires, of the attachment to the material world. He rid himself of suffering. It allows for the miraculous mental and physical focus when the detachment is achieved. The miracle of the people being content with their lives, getting along. The real miracle is transforming the human mind. Again, this was said by a Buddhist monk. We are all capable of much more than we might believe we are. We just need to put our minds to it. To believe in miracles is to believe that there is more to life than meets the eye. So let's go on over to Scripture. Scripture obviously talks quite a bit about miracles. They don't use the word miracles, they use signs, but there is much talk about the works that Jesus did. So in Matthew 17:20, for truly I say to you, if you have faith like the grain of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. John 14:12, truly, truly, I say to you, whoever believes in me will also do the works that I do, and greater works than these will he do, because I am going to the Father. Mark 9:23, and Jesus said to him, if you can, all things are possible for one who believes. Romans 19:15, by the power of signs and wonders, by the power of the Spirit of God, so that from Jerusalem and all the way around to Illyricum, I have fulfilled the ministry of the gospel of Christ. Luke 18:27, but he said, what is impossible with man is possible with God. Matthew 19:26, but Jesus looked at them and said, with man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. And so I wanted to wrap it up with that one. We're going to talk about specifically the miracles of Jesus now. So the Gospel of John is considered to be the most metaphysical of all four Gospels. It came from a different source, which is called the Book of Signs. And in there, each of 7 miracles are signs that prove that Jesus was the Messiah. The miracles are one of 4 ways that Jesus uses to give his teaching. The methods are precepts, which are commandments, so he talks about those. They're parables, miracles, and actions. So Myrtle Fillmore talks about this metaphysically, and she says, the wonderful principles that Jesus used in performing his miracles are working here and now for all those who have faith in God as the source of their blessings, who are making the teachings of the Master practical in their daily thinking and living. So the Gospels record a total of 35 miracles that are done by Jesus. She says there are probably a lot more miracles that were not actually recorded. The purpose is to prove the divinity of Jesus. So they're object lessons. So object lessons is where you say words to get a point across, but then you have an object lesson, so some action that takes place to prove what your words are, to give examples of what your words are. So in John 8:12, it says, I am the light of the world, and that was followed by the miracle of healing the man who was born blind. The light bringer to all those who sit in darkness and in fear of death. So that's the message that he was giving through giving this miracle. I am the bread of life. That was followed by feeding the 5,000. I am the resurrection and the life. That is the miracle of raising Lazarus from the tomb. That happened right after he said those words. Miracles of Jesus are defined as extraordinary happenings brought about by the operation of higher laws to help those persons concerned to make clear, important teachings helpful to all. Miracles fall into 4 main groups. So there are healing miracles, supply miracles, overcoming death, and nature miracles. Healing miracles emphasize the teaching that God's kingdom is a kingdom of wholeness and peace and health. It is the inheritance of all of God's children. God's will is health and wholeness. It places great emphasis on faith. Luke 8:48, thy faith has made thee whole. Miracles of supply. So there are 6 miracles of this type, the feeding of the 5,000. So it has to be a really serious situation where something is urgently needed, and supply of that need is what constitutes the miracle. It's a lesson about how to meet emergencies, demonstrate abundant supply, even in the face of seeming lack. So there are 3 steps. The number 1 is Jesus, long before the miracle, built into his consciousness the thought of God as the omnipresent supply, feeding from the word of God. He said he was, I have food to eat that you know not of. That was spoken in John 4:32. So he identified himself so much with the omnipresent supply, he was able to say that I am the bread of life. That was in John 6:35. So number 2 is demonstrating supply. So note, Jesus recognized a nucleus of supply. So even before he performed the big miracle, he knew that there was something there to start with. So the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes were there already. This is because we have a tendency to say that nothing is available. The miracle indicates that there is always something that is available, although it may be small, and you give thanks before the appearance of the supply. And all of those people that were present for this miracle were abundantly supplied. And number 3, Jesus instructed the disciples to gather up the fragments of what was left over. This was to emphasize what happened and that there were leftovers. So this is not because he was going to reuse the food or store the food or keep it for some later time. This is because he wanted everybody to be really clear that not only did he feed everybody abundantly, but that there were lots and lots of leftovers. And this is the only miracle that is spoken of in all 4 Gospels. Very, very interesting to note. All right. So in all the miracles of supply, it is often repeated, God's kingdom is one of abundance. You call upon God in faith, and our needs are met in a manner that is exceeding abundantly all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us. That's Ephesians 3:20. So miracles overcoming death. The basic idea is that of life. God's kingdom is one of life, and that death has no place in it. This is the only temporary condition that death is. It is followed by an awakening into life. In him was life, and the life was the light of man. That's John 1:4. Miracles about overcoming death are very important in our experience, because there are times that we go through when something seems to die within us. Youthful energies, hopes, ambitions, our health, imaginations lose their freshness. So these miracles are meant to say that even though it feels like something has died within you, that can be reborn again. The individual Christ is speaking restoring words. Lazarus, he said, the meaning of Lazarus is one whom God helps. And he said to Lazarus, come forth, awake thou that sleeps, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall shine upon thee. That's Ephesians 5:14. Jesus instructed us not only to heal the sick, but to raise the dead. All of the work begins in our own consciousness. It's always important that we remember that. So what Jesus did. So when he went to the raising of the Lazarus miracle, he took Peter, John, and James with him. And as you know, those 3 people represent faith, love, and wisdom. And it's important to have that part in any of our restoration attempts. Also, he shut the door to the outside. So back in those days, they had professional mourners that stood outside the house of someone who was deceased, and they played music. And so he shut the door on all of the professional mourners. He wanted to keep out unbelieving neighbors and close the door of consciousness. He closed it against all negative thoughts and messages that it couldn't be done. And again, this is a message to us that we need to close the door of our consciousness that says negative things, and we need to open the door only to thoughts of what can be done. When Jesus was speaking to Jairus, he said, fear not, only believe. Replace fear with faith, even when it feels hopeless. And he said, she is not dead, but she sleeps. This is a denial of the seeming reality and the affirmation of what is real. So again, what he's saying is that what it looks like on the outside is not what is really the case. So he's talking about the fact that you believe strongly, and although it looks really dire and grim on the outside, the fact is that there is always hope, and there is always a way to raise it up in consciousness. So nature miracles, Jesus stilling the storm, we talk about that all the time. So this is about our consciousness, and that storms arise within our own consciousness, causing us to become anxious and fearful. Peace be still, he said. Walking on the water is also a lesson concerning faith. So you know that when he walked on the water, when Peter walked out on the water, he was looking at Jesus and he was walking, and then he took his eyes off Jesus and he fell. And so that was because he had a lack of faith. So it's just a metaphorical story about the fact that you need to keep your eyes focused on the faith at all times. The withering fig tree. So Jesus was out walking with his friends and he saw a fig tree and he was hungry and he went over to get the figs and there was no figs there, and he became very angry and he cursed the fig tree. And so within 24 hours the fig tree died. And so this is a lesson about bearing fruit. He said that we as human beings are here to bear the fruit, to show that Christ's Spirit is live in our thoughts and in our activities, that we are supposed to bear fruit as well. Herein is my Father glorified, that ye may bear fruit, and so shall you be my disciples. That is John 15:8. So metaphysically, the definition of a miracle is an event or an effect in the physical world that is beyond or out of the ordinary course of things, deviating from the known laws of nature or transcending our knowledge of these laws. In reality, miracles are events that take place as a result of the operation of a higher unknown consciousness, an unknown law. Mighty things have been wrought in the past by those who had mere blind faith to guide them. To faith we now add understanding of the law, and our achievements will be a fulfillment of the promise of Jesus. He that believeth in me, the works that I do, shall he do also, and greater works than these. We just talked about in John 14:12. So the metaphysical interpretation of the nature of miracles. Miracles are an important part of the development of Christianity. A lot of people believe that you're not really a Christian unless you believe it's required as part of your faith to believe in miracles. A person is not considered to be Christian unless they believe in the virgin birth, the resurrection, and the ascension, and other miracles. So there, as you know, are many miracles reported: the healing, the levitation, the multiplication of food, appearance of prominent figures of the church throughout Scripture, the parting of the Red Sea and the Jordan River, restoration of life, standing still of the moon and the sun, multiplying of the widow's oils, the ability to walk on water, and changing water into wine. God is the principle of absolute good, eternal and unchanging. Many sincere Christians pray to God to receive blessings, healing, and fortune as if we need to beg God for these positive outcomes. God always wants our best and highest good. Nothing less than that. It is we who must change and allow ourselves to receive all the gifts God already wants for us. We don't need to beg God so he will change his mind about us. We must change to allow the good to manifest in and through us. What seems to be a miracle is only the activation of the principle of absolute good through the consciousness of the individual, even when it is done without a full conscious understanding. When you are really, really good, things happen and we say it is a miracle. Actually, the potential for it existed all along, and we just came into alignment with the belief that we could receive the miracle. This miracle is the way it should have been all along. It is only a miracle of restoration, of us coming back into alignment with the truth. As we change our consciousness and believe that something good is possible, we change our belief in the laws of nature, the physical, what we can see in the world. Jesus said, if you can believe, all these things are possible. Miracles usually happen in times of great stress, when one is ill, when one needs money or a job, or needs to be saved from some kind of danger. In times of need, a person can generate through faith and belief a power to do what seems impossible. So an example of this, I don't know the woman's name, but there was a story about the fact that a woman who was a mom, her child ran out in front of a car, the car hit her, and the mom actually lifted the car off of the child. And so there are other stories throughout history that are real concrete stories that have news events associated with them, of people having this insurmountable power that just seemingly came out of nowhere. And the point is that she didn't think about it, she didn't ask, am I going to be strong enough to do this? But when she was in this great need and great time of crisis, she gained this incredible power to lift the car off of her child. So we think it's possible, and then it happens because we believe it's possible. How do we develop a miracle working consciousness? The best and fastest way is daily periods of prayer and meditation. Every time we turn to the creative power within us with an open mind, we develop the consciousness to live and express on a higher level. The greatest challenge is releasing our cherished beliefs that we think we are true about what we deserve, that we are out of alignment with the truth, and we need to release those beliefs that are out of alignment. We need to change our subconscious misconceptions. We should always be studying to learn more about truth principles, acting on some ideas that may be challenging. So sometimes we've had an example of people saying that they are in need of prosperity. And when they pray and meditate, or when they talk to their religious leader of any kind, the religious leader says that they need to tithe. And tithing is uncomfortable. People think that it's very, very hard, but the reality is it begins a miracle in his life, and it helps bring the prosperity consciousness. Miracles don't just happen by chance. They are produced by God working through a receptive consciousness. In prayer and meditation, God will inspire us with his ideas necessary to build the receptive consciousness. Once the ideas become a normal part of our consciousness, experience peace of mind, security, happiness, and many outer material blessings. Here's what I know. So the quote that stuck out to me the most in all of this was, "Call upon God in faith, our needs are met in a manner exceeding abundantly all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us." So, as you know, I'm going through this process of looking for a house. And I talked last week about the falling into the hole of fear and how it made me unable to think straight. And I made this poster, because I'm artsy-fartsy kind of woman, so I made this poster, and I was claiming my perfect house. I was listing everything that would be in that house, and I was affirming that God wanted me to have it and that it was going to come, and I believed that it was going to be possible. Joel Osteen reminded me that the moment that I pray for it, I need to accept that it's already done, that I need to say, as of this moment. So as of Saturday, the week before, I said, as of this moment, I know my house is here. It's just only a matter of time before it comes into physical manifestation. So I was driving, and I was listening again to Joel Osteen. I love Joel Osteen. And so I made that. I wrote on the poster, Saturday, June 11th, I received my house. And when that happened, that was a Tuesday. That night, I went home and I went online. I found this house. This house is for sale by the owner. It was not on the realty sites that I had normally been looking at. It was at another site that had been recommended to me. That Wednesday, I went to see the house. I nearly cried when I walked inside. Not only was it the perfect house in that it had everything that I wanted, it was at a price that was so much less than what I had set as what I was willing to pay. And I had been looking at lots of houses. I've been looking online for almost a year, but I'd been looking in person for quite a while. And everything that I looked at when I got there was just not what it was said to be at all. And so when I walked in and I saw this house and I heard the price, I wanted to burst into tears. It was so exactly what I wanted. And so the next day before work, I went in and put in all the paperwork. I turned in my money order so that I could be approved by the management. And you know what I started saying to myself is, this is my miracle. This is my miracle. Over the past few weeks, there was a shift in consciousness where as I talked about last week, I went through the fear and the anxiety tunnel, but also I turned over all my control. I said repeatedly, God is going to find a way. Last week, the week after that, I did a talk called God is My Home, where I wrote about this major shift in my life, where I totally acknowledged that everything was in order, everything was working exactly the way it's supposed to be, and that no matter where I physically lived, God was my home, and I always had God's arms to go to sleep in, and that I never needed to have any fear at all because I have my home in God. And I released all the fear, and I turned it all over in faith. This faith so far exceeds my expectations. So I had a list of everything that I want. Number one was quiet. So where I live right now is very, very noisy. And I like to do meditation, and it's just too loud. So this place is quiet. It's got the tub. It's got the swimming pool. It's got the washer and dryer. It's a price that is so easy for me to afford. And what I realized is that there was a major shift in my consciousness. And when I wrote wrote down the date that I accepted the house was there, and it was just unbelievable. But I had to release the fear, and I had to turn it all over in faith. So the word miracle kept coming to me, so much better than anything I looked at and so much less expensive. The song says, I woke up this morning to so many blessings. I woke up this morning destined for greatness. I broke down the door of low expectations. Impossible is no more. There's no more limitation. Miracles are happening all of the time. We have to shift our consciousness to know that they are ours to claim. When we put all our faith and trust in God and let go of trying to control and recognize that as soon as we asked, it was given. It may take time to show up, but God will provide for all of our needs. It's our work to accept the gifts that God already has for us. We need to trust and let go, and don't be surprised by the miracle. And so it is. Remember, at all times, the power is in you. It always has been, and it always will be. I'd love to hear your comments down below about miracles that you have experienced in your life. I look forward to hearing from you, and I send you on your way with many blessings.